Hi students, today I would like to introduce a new chapter, The Price of Flowers. The Price of Flowers, written by Prabhat Kumar Mukhopadhyay. Alright, this Price of Flowers, you must be know about the price, the spelling, Price. Very important, check it that. The price of flower is very important, that one. What is the spelling? Don't Z, Z, come to Z, alright? Prize. Right, price of flowers. What do you mean by price of flowers? Price. Yes, the price of flowers. Flowers, we know that. The price, yes, value, right? Okay, right. About the author, we want to introduce our author. Prabhat Kumar Mukhopadhyay was born in 1873 and was died in 1932. Was one of the best short story writer in Bengali. He was a Bengal writer. He is also a novelist. His short stories based on real life situations and his characters belong to the middle class families. He presents hopes, joys, and sorrow of his characters very effective. Yes, Prabhat Kumar Mukhopadhyay is there. We want to introduce that. He was from Bengal, a Bengali writer, short story writer at the same time. What is that? A novelist. And his short story is mostly based on real life situations. So here is also real life situation is more in this chapter, and the characters also very powerful about middle class family. Mostly he written about middle class family, and he is also presents in these stories about hopes, about joys, about sorrow of these middle class family members. That is his peculiarity. That's about Prabhat Kumar Mukhopadhyay. The what he says about the price of flowers, we want to know about that. Not price of flowers, the price of flowers. All right, let's see that what happened, the price of flowers. Okay, I will just give an summary of this story. First, I give summary. Just listen carefully, right? The price of flower is touching story, the bond of human relationship. Really, it is a story about human relationship. It's tight bond of human relationship means very tight relationship between human beings. Here the character name Maggie was an English girl of 13. What's the character name? Maggie. Not a very double item. It's the character English girl Maggie, 13 years old. 1 3. Okay. English girl Maggie, English girl of 13. She was the first heroine character of this story. Maggie, girl of 13. Okay. Another character named Mr. Gupta was an Indian. Okay, he met her at a vegetarian hotel in London. It's happened in British his country. That's in London, the capital. They got acquainted. They are introduced themselves. That means Maggie and Mr. Gupta met together in London restaurant. It's a vegetarian restaurant, and they are friends. Maggie was happy to know that Mr. Gupta was an Indian. Okay, Mr. Gupta, the hero character, he was an Indian, I already told. So two characters already came, Maggie and Mr. Gupta. He already, her only brother, Francis. That means Maggie had a brother. His name is Francis. Here called Frank, short name Frank. Was working as a soldier in India. At that time, India was ruled by British. During the time of British rule, Maggie's brother Francis, that means Frank, worked in India as a soldier. That is why Maggie introduced Mr. Gupta, because Maggie wanted to know about India and Indian situation and Indian culture and more about his brother. Her mother, the third character came, Maggie's mother, Mrs. Clifford. Mrs. Clifford was much worried because she had not heard from Frank for a long time. I already told first character Maggie, 13 years old English girl, and the second one is that Mr. Gupta, Indian. He was in London now, all right. And the third character is known as what is called as Mrs. Clifford, Maggie's mother. She is too much worried about her son Frank. I mean Francis. I already told Francis was not in London. He was in India working as a soldier under British rule. And another character comes Francis, or called as Frank. What is that Frank? Frank was a soldier, Maggie's brother, Clifford's son. So what was Mrs. Clifford problem was worry about Frank because Frank didn't give any letter. At that time there was no mobile, there was no telephones perfect. So that's why they didn't get more information about Frank or Francis. That's why Mrs. Clifford, Maggie's mother, is too worried. She had heard that India was a country of snakes, tigers, and fevers. That's about the British culture. Before British people believe or foreign peoples believe that India is a country of snake, tigers, and fever. Mr. Gupta told Maggie and her mother not to worry about Frank. So that is just a summary, as a just idea about the story. I already told the first character, Miss Maggie, 13 years old girl, that means 1 3. Second one, Mr. Gupta, Indian. Now he was in London when the story happening. That time he was in London, Mr. Gupta. The location is now in London, that means British. And the third character is Francis or Frank, who was worked in India as a soldier under British rule. That is Maggie's brother. And fourth character's name is Mrs. Clifford, Maggie's mother or Frank's mother. What about her? Was too much worried about Frank because Frank didn't give any letter or any information about Frank. That's why Maggie and her mother too much worry. All right, and that's why Maggie introduced Mr. Gupta in a restaurant, particularly vegetarian restaurant, and she believed that when foreign people believes India is a land of snakes, fever, and what is fever, snake, and what is it called? Tigers. Okay. So Mr. Gupta told Maggie and her mother, "Don't worry, we will find out Frank in India." Okay, this is the beginning of the story. So you must be heard about the characters. The very important question is the Maggie character sketch or Maggie's mother, Mrs. Clifford character sketch. That's a very important question. Maggie character sketch and Mrs. Clifford character sketch. You must note that. Okay, then what happened? One day, Mr. Gupta received a letter from Maggie informing that her mother was ill. I already told Mr. Gupta and Maggie already friend. Now, Gupta went back to India because his mother is not well. Soon he went to visit Mrs. Clifford. Maggie insisted that Mrs. Gupta should gaze at the crystal ring. You know crystal ring? For example, Indian culture, India's used that astrology, Malayalam is called Jadagam, to find out the future, find out the present, and find out uh, what is it, earlier things in our life. So British people are used in the form of not astrology in the form of Jatagam, which is called in the form of crystal. What's that is called as a crystal? Yes, crystal ring. There's a crystal ring had sent Maggie as a gift. The crystal ring is very important for foreign people, and the crystal ring is played very important role in this story. Okay, they believed that crystal ring had some magical power. Yes, they believed that crystal ring had magical power. Who believed? Maggie and mother believed that crystal ring is a magical power, can find out easily where is Francis, what about Francis, about everything. What made Mrs. Clifford ill was her anxiety over Frank. Exactly, the Mrs. Clifford is in bed because mainly she was too much worried about Frank or Francis. What about Francis? He's still alive. Why did he send the letter? Why did he contact me or his brother, his sister? Why did he not send any letter like that? That's why too much worry, mother. Mr. Gupta looked into a crystal ring and assumed that lady that her son was alive. So Maggie and Mr. Gupta played a trick here in order to satisfy, in order to content Mrs. Clifford. Just look on the crystal ring and say that Frank is okay. Frank is now live in India comfortably, no problem. This made her recover from her illness. This is comfort for Mrs. Clifford, and Mrs. Clifford is now okay. She already now wake up from the bed, and now she's now is okay, very good in situation. After Maggie and Mr. Gupta played a trick to look into the crystal ring and find out Francis, and said that Francis is already over. Francis is no problem. He is perfect. That's why Mrs. Clifford worries over. After a few days, Maggie sent a postcard to Mr. Gupta informing that her brother Frank had been killed in a war. But already the situation is that Frank already killed in a war in India. But Maggie know that, but Mrs. Clifford don't know that. That Maggie didn't inform to Mrs. Clifford because Mrs. Clifford already, if it happened to her these words also, she became too much danger. That's why Maggie never informed. Gupta also never informed to Mrs. Clifford that fact. He wrote to them about his departure to India. In the morning of the day departure, Maggie came to Mr. Gupta, to buy flowers to be offered to her brother Gay. Actually, Frank's already died in India, and that Maggie and Gupta know that, but Mrs. Clifford don't know that. That's why Maggie gave some flowers to give on the grave of France. That in France grave is that in France buried in India, and so Maggie bought some flowers to give to Mr. Gupta because Mr. Gupta is now returned to India, ready to depart from in London to India. So Maggie have given some kinds of flowers for her brother for his grave. He promised that he would buy and offer flowers and added her that he would write to them after that. That about the story. Okay. So the flowers price is very high. It is not if it is see that flowers as to very cheap and maybe you can buy, but that particular flowers Maggie gives such kinds of flower is more valuable. Is that's the price of flowers is that one more valuable, more adorable, more uh, worried, and a more value. We can say that that's the price of flowers. Story said it. Okay. We already said it, the summary or idea of the story. First character, Maggie. Second character, Mr. Gupta. Third character, Franz or Francis. And fourth character is Mrs. Clifford. These are the most important characters. And the most important magical power thing is that Crystal Ring is also another character in this. So character sketch is over. I already told it. Very important is Mr. Maggie character sketch. Sorry, Miss Maggie character sketch and Mrs. Clifford character sketch maybe comes in Mr. Gupta character sketch. So this is very important for you. You must be learn and to comfort to write these answers from our expedition, the examination, right? So let us see that price of flowers. Do you understand? Price means here the value. Flowers, you know that. Who gave the price to price of flowers to whom? Miss Maggie gave flowers to Mr. Gupta in order to put the grave of his brother named Francis. Francis already died in India while he working as a soldier in under British rule. But Mrs. Clifford don't know, that mother don't know about the fact because it's held by Mr. Gupta and Mag. So let us read that, then you can find out what is the exact story that. So price means here value, the value of flowers, the sisters' value of flowers. All right, let us see that price of flowers. Just I read it just to find out. The bond of human relationship was very strong. They are so complex that it is difficult for us to explain. Words and deeds human have a soothing effect. What do you mean by soothing? Relax or relief effect, and they cement the bonds of relationship. Here is a story about the impact of words. Read on. What about say that? I told the bonds of human relationship are very strong. Our family also very tight relationship. We have good relations. We have a tight relation with our uh, family members, isn't it? Did you feel that? Yes. Indian cultures, the family relation is also very strong. So there are too much problems happens in our family. We have to live, we have to hope, we have joy, we have sometimes cry. So many things we had, but our relationship comes to be very strong. Such kinds of work is composed here. The Bengali writer Mukhopadhyay, Prabhat Kumar Mukhopadhyay contributed such kinds of wonderful piece of story in front of you. From this, you can really understood what was the perfect relationship of human being. What is human being relationships reach? How the relationship is very tightened. So far, we can understood through this the best story in this book we have. Let's say the price of flowers. I already told this idea or summary of the story. Characters name also I already told. Just if you want to start our character sketch and the story, let's just read it. It was nearly the 1 o'clock, and I was feeling extremely hungry. This is during the time of afternoon. Thus, yes, Maggie or Mr. Gupta think that feeling extremely hungry. So I made my way slowly into a vegetarian restaurant, which was not far away. In St. Martin Lane, Lanja was in London restaurants was not so crowded in those days. Yes, the first paragraph what I said. Mr. Gupta looking for a vegetarian restaurant in London. That's in the afternoon time, 1 o'clock. And he's seeking for vegetarian restaurant. At last he find out a restaurant that's name is St. Martin Lane. The street name is here mentioned. And it is not too crowded. Second paragraph. Well, I found not more than 3 or 4 hungry people are sketched around the room. 4 or 3 people are only sitting in the room in the restaurant. I chose a table to several. Seated myself and opened this newspaper from his selected chair and table, and now open the newspaper and try to read. So this was the situation. That now the situation is in London. 1 o'clock, lunchtime, vegetarian restaurant, not too crowded. Yeah, let's see. Okay, usually, did you visit any famous restaurant in different country? Can you just imagine what are the mannerism, what are the table sitting, what are the spoon sitting, and waiters' behavior, and the ambience and the slow music in the restaurant? What was their uniforms and how they behave? That's very important, right? How the customers behave, all these employees' behaviors in front of you. Just imagine. such kind of restaurant. It's not ordinary restaurant. I just say about the high class restaurant, first class restaurant. Yes, here is also we have to in first class restaurant in London at lunchtime. Mr. Gupta is sitting there, or Mr. Maggie. Just say, who is my here? Just want to see that. Well, a waiter came up and waited politely for my order. Yes, waiter came and politely asked what he wants. I raised my eyes from the paper, glanced at this menu, and told her what I required. Thank you, sir, she said, and went briskly and noiselessly away. All right, is Mr. Gupta now sitting in a restaurant? He is now approached by a waiter, where he politely came and asked, what you want, sir? Or they say that, not to say that what you want. They just to say that, could you please order, sir? Or they say that, may I know what's you looking, sir? Or may I help you? Like that was used very courteously and politely. The waiter asked, and Mr. Gupta told his demands. And the waitress, not waiter, waitress means she, yeah. She said and went briskly. Briskly means very actively. Active waiter, waitress, and noiselessly away, gone. So waiter came, not waiter, waitress came, take an order, and go very slowly and politely. And next paragraph. At that moment, my attention was drawn to a table not far from mine. A young English girl was sitting there. She had been watching me with interested surprise, but turned her gaze away as soon as I looked at her. So, what is that? At that time, a girl is watching to me. Me here means my, or me here means Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta now explained. He is the narrator. Mr. Gupta is the narrator. He said it, one young English girl. That's our heroine, Maggie. Maggie looking straight with surprisingly to Mr. Gupta. For what? We know the story from this summary. But let us, Mr. Gupta don't know what happened to me. But she turned her eyes away when as soon as I looked at her. This is very common that when you're looking someone, when that person looking at us, we have turned our attention. We are looking somewhere. Isn't it? So similar situation happened in a restaurant with Maggie and Mr. Gupta. So they are now, let's introduce, that's a thing has to here going on, right? Then we will say about Maggie, the character sketch of Maggie also here we can see. Well, the girl was 13 or 14 years old. Her clothes betrayed her poverty. Betrayed her poverty means here betray means cheating not. Here is the meaning is betray means to show the poverty. Some people dress behavior we can understand that whether they are rich or poor. Here is also Maggie dressed in a very poor way. That's why Mr. Gupta understood that she was very poor girl and also looking 13 or 14 years old. Her hair is hung in a heavy stream down her back. Yes, they are further explained about her hairstyle. Her eyes were large. They had a sad expression. Yes, that's also sad expression. And the hairstyle and the clothes and the years, age also here explained. They had a sad expressions. Who had a sad expression? Miss Maggie. I watched hers when she was not looking so that she would not notice. My lunch was served as she was finishing hers. The waitress brought her the bill. Bill are paid at the desk as one goes out. Desk is near to door. So the both are now taking their lunch after they have to pay the bills and ready to go out from the restaurant. So restaurant scene is now over, and also character sketch of Maggie already said. What was the character sketch of Miss Maggie? 13 years old or 14 years old girl, English girl, young girl, very poor in clothing, and their hairstyle is a heavy stream. strong flowing. That means heavy, streaming, strong flowing hair in the back. And eyes also mentioned, large eyes, wide eyes, and also mentioned about the expression, sad expression. That's about Miss Maggie. Okay, they're finishing their lunch and they paid the bills. The girl stood up. My eyes followed her. As she paid her bill, she asked the cashiers in a low voice, "Please, miss, can you tell me if that gentleman is an Indian?" Yes, Maggie already completed her lunch and ready to go to the cashiers and pay this restaurant bill. At that time, Maggie asked the cashier may be a woman, and asked questions. Maggie asked a question to the cashier. Was that whether that table sitting man is an Indian? Who said to whom? Maggie said to cashier. About whom? About Mr. Gupta. Oh, well, I think so. The cashier answered. Then cashier very carefully answered that. Well, I think so. He was an Indian. And who? Mr. Gupta. Does he came here all the time? Who asked? Maggie asked another question to the cashier. Does he came here all the time? Does he means here Mr. Gupta? Whether he came in every day in the restaurant? That's the question. Then cashier answers, perhaps not. I don't recall having seen him before. No, I don't think so. He's not regular customer, regularly came in this restaurant. Who said it? The cashier said to Maggie. So the conversation between cashier and Maggie about Mr. Gupta. So that's about, we already said it. Then we want to go to the second page. Thank you, said the girl, and looked at me once more with startled eyes and went out. Startled eyes means surprised eye and went out. Startled means surprise. Now once again, before leaving in restaurant, Miss Maggie looked Mr. Gupta, but Mr. Gupta is still on the table. So that's the things as happens in the restaurant the scene. All right, the next paragraph. A surprise to me. It's surprise to me means what is surprise here? That is Maggie again and again looking very surprisingly to Mr. Gupta. Again, it's Mr. Gupta. Mr. Gupta don't understand why this young girl looking at me. Why? This is the expression about Mr. Gupta. Why? What was the matter? Her interest in this aroused my interest in her. I also very suspicious and very anxious about to know about her. When I had finished my lunch, I asked the waitress, "Do you know the girl who was sitting over there?" Yeah. He also asked about the Maggie to waitress. Well, no, sir, I don't know her to speak of. I have noticed she had lunch here on Saturdays. Yeah, I don't know more about her. She came here only Saturday, sir. Who said it? Waitress told to Mr. Gupta. Before the conversation between Maggie and cashier about Mr. Gupta, here is a conversation between waitress and Mr. Gupta towards to Maggie. Mr. Gupta is now anxious to know about Miss Maggie. That's why he asked the question to waitress. But waitress said that she only came not regularly, only Saturdays only. All right. Doesn't she come on my other day? Was Mr. Gupta asked the waitress. Then waitress replied, I never see her on the other days. Then Mr. Gupta again said that. Have you any idea who she is? Then waitress, perhaps she works in a nearby shop. Then Mr. Gupta, how do you know? Saturday is payday. That is when she comes. One other days she may not be able to afford lunch. Perhaps she does not earn very much. So Mr. Gupta asked the waitress why she came only Saturdays. Then waitress answered. What was the waitress answer? Saturday is a payday. Payday means salary day. When Miss Maggie got salary, she came in that restaurant. This restaurant is very costly restaurant. That she came only Saturday because she got salary on that day. This is when she came. On other days, she may not be able to afford lunch. Afford means she can't pay the bill of this restaurant because this restaurant is costly. And Saturday she came. At that time, she got money or she got salary. That's why she came in Saturday, sir. Perhaps she is very poor. She can't afford the restaurants. Who said it? Waitress said to Mr. Gupta. So from this line, we can understand that Mr. Gupta is too much anxious about Miss Maggie, and still Mr. Gupta don't understand, didn't understand why this girl looking me surprisingly. Okay, so there's a conversation over between Mr. Gupta and waitress in a restaurant. So restaurant scene is over. So what is next? We want to know that. I was moved by what she said. Yes, the restaurant is over. That's uh, moved from the restaurant. So up to that, we already said it that, and we must know the question answers from this. Let's see the question answers from this beginning. From this beginning, can you answer? Can you answer the question answer? If it is very interesting in the story, you can easily say without looking the book. The first question is that. What was the first question? Let us see. So many meanings I already given here. Okay, let's see. Why was the narrator attention drawn to the English girl? The narrator attention was drawn to the English girl because she had was watching him during her meal. Meal means here lunch. Moreover, her clothes revealed her poverty and her large eyes expressed sadness. That is why narrator. Who is the narrator? Mr. Gupta. Narrator attention. That means looking to that girl very surprising. Then can you answer the second question? What was the second question? What is your impression of the girl? Your impression. It means your impression means student's impression. She is a young girl of 14 or 13. From her dress and appearance, we know that she was poor circumstances. She looks sad. This reveals that there is something that worries her. Yeah, true. That's what we already know that. She worry about her brother, Frank or Francis. Okay, then third question. Can you process the third question? Can you answer anyone without looking the book? If you have to listen carefully, you can very nicely to answer these questions without looking the book. The class listening is very important for every chapter. Why? Okay. Okay. What was the third question? Third question I forgot. What was that? Can you read it? Just look at that. Okay. How do you know that the girl was interested in knowing the identity of the narrator? You must know who was the narrator, Mr. Gupta. Yeah, the girl one. Who is the girl here? Miss Maggie want to know more about Mr. Gupta. How do you know? How do you understand that? The girl was interested in knowing this identity of this narrator. That was why she was watching him during her meal or lunch. Besides, she asked the cashier whether the narrator was in India. From this, we can understand that want to know the identity of the Mr. Gupta. And the fourth question is that what do you understand about the probable condition of the girl? Who's the girl here? Maggie. Her dress and appearance suggested that she was poor. The waitress told the narrator that she came to the restaurant only on Saturdays for her lunch. From this, we can guess that she was working in some nearby shops. Okay, on a little salary, and she could eat lunch only her Saturdays. So these questions I already posted in there. See, let us see that. See that this is the question answers and meaning of the words. See the question answer we already told. We just have to listen that one. So up to question we already discussed, and up to fourth, is it? Yes. So that's all today. We can take another portions to another time. Take care. Keep in touch with me. Bye.